Welcome. These will be my thoughts on The Flash, Season 1, Episode 11, The Sound and the Fury. The episode is rated CVPG, so as it be. There will be spoilers for the episode and everything Arrowverse leading up to it, not for anything Arrowverse or anything else that came out after this episode first premiered, and another episode that I absolutely loved. So there is only one deleted scene on the DVD, at least mine, which is the actual act of breaking out for, Hartley. And yeah, ultimately probably just cut for time. Is one of those kinds of things you don't really need to see because we find out later that it happened. But I will still say it was pretty cool. Basically, because I gotta say, I was thinking that he used, because we later see him kind of use the what's it called, the hearing aid thing. He picks a lock or something along those lines, but to break out he actually used the frequency thing, to shatter the glass. That yeah. And I guess this is a good time to recommend, if you haven't already watched Illuminati's video. I believe it's called, I'm afraid my wrists are too sort of double check right now, but it's something along the lines of the revolutionaries we were meant to forget. Wait. Later she changed the title. I think the most recent title that I saw, something along the lines of Why Diaspora Wars Are Silly. Something along those lines. Fantastic video, well worth. I think it's around 2 hours, but just absolutely amazing. And since it is Women's History Month, that's part of why I'm recommending a video by a female YouTuber. Not that that's the only time of year that I do that, but I'm making a special effort to this month. And I also wanted to talk about, I thought there was some really great stuff with the female characters in this episode. Iris really working hard to prove herself as a journalist, which I feel like is the start of an overall, she made a move, but Mason is not sold yet. And the it is one of those things where, when someone so young, she says he thinks I'm just a millennial. She doesn't quite say, and that this is a participation trophy, but that's basically where they're going with that. It's and there is, generational conflict really, really sucks. We gotta unite against the rich. They're the cause of our problems. But part of it is, of course, this thing of, I would probably say every single other journalist in that place has long-term education that's, like college kind of thing, specifically for being a journalist, and maybe they did not get a staff job quite so fast. Like, they really had to prove themselves. And of course, it also turns out, it's basically just because I think he probably just wants more people to read his paper, so he's getting that person who knows the Flash, which is really, really frustrating. And now everybody who works there thinks that that's what she's there for, when she really didn't mean for that to be the case. So yeah, a really compelling conflict, and it is, of course, heightened by her being a woman and black. Misogynoir is one of the most, sadly, socially acceptable, when it really shouldn't be. Like, none of them should be, but types of bigotry today. Like, you will find people very casually making ridiculous comments about black women. So yeah, really, really important to address that issue head on. And I really appreciate the bottomless wealth of patience that Kate displayed when Hartley made his crack about no wedding invite. Like, wow. This guy. This show, the Arrowverse so far, is so freaking good at making these villains that we just love to hate. Like, holy crap. What an utter jerk. I quite like the thing about, most of the time he's a jerk. But then every so often he was a dick. And my reaction mirrored, I think it was Joe's. Now, I think that does cover the sort of overarching. So yeah, really cool seeing the, what were they called again? Royal Flush Gang? Am I remembering right? Weren't they also in an episode of Arrow? But I guess were they some of the ones broken out by Brick, maybe? I feel like I remember something about those. I guess it's possible that they just share I mean, there are multiple fire villains on Flash right now. Maybe there's multiple in the Arrowverse that have this sort of that thing. But anyway, really, really cool. I like the thing about, Cisco and Kate, they're trying to work together, so they both go, you know what, you're right, and then they, accidentally, yeah, and I like Barry just going, you can hear yourselves giving contradictory orders to me too, right? Like, I'm sorry, when did you become cops? Or ICE, I suppose. And yeah, that was great. Okay, block the path. Okay, he does that, and then oh, he's that one's trying to use the what was it, the access to the it was freeway or something. What access? And once they're all in the same place, he just grabs their keys, and yeah, at that point, like, how far are they gonna get on foot when the cops are already in cop cars chasing them? So that's, yeah, really, really nicely done there. And yeah, that was such a cool. No. Okay, it says that it thinks it's spam, so I am not going to answer that one. Yes. Anyway, I think I'll Google the number later to double check and call back if it seems to not be spam. Anyway, yes. So we have they were persistent though. Yes. So let's see. What's the other thing? Yeah, this thing of having 3 people that he has to stop, and all of them, driving fast in different directions. That's the kind of thing where we can really see him shine. We can see that's there. If you don't have super speed, you're not going to be able to handle that situation alone, or with alone other than the support from home base. I think that is when we get the first. No, wait, yeah, the first flashback is a tiny bit later. Yeah, it's when that's when Barry talks to the. Oh, right, we have the thing about the selfie. Yeah, I think it technically qualifies. And let's see. I like that Wells is like, we should, for the people of the future, and then he's like, what? I mean, don't you think there'll be people in the future? Because he's slipping a tiny bit occasionally. He also, I think it was the episode before this one, he almost got out of the chair, when when Kate and Cisco were there. So I would not rule out that he's going to overplay his hand in an upcoming episode. Now but yeah, so Barry at home talking about, and she got the message. And yeah, I like the thing about, was that a good scream or a bad scream? And I I like the, what was it, spaghetti a la me, and the yeah, and they're painting the new, or the, yeah, no, yeah, well, let's see, it's not new to him, but it's new to her, so I guess they're painting her room maybe, and yeah, that is genuinely sweet. It's I know I've said it before, I know I sound like the corniest cornball to have ever corned, but I do think it is wonderful when we can do things for the people that we really care about. And think I guess that does bring us to the yeah, I think the very next thing was Wells, at home, and yeah, Hartley attacks, and I have to want. So later he says that he knows the secret, but in this scene he does not seem to take into account super speed. So it must be, as Harrison later tells them, that he knew that he was gambling with their lives. And I really appreciated that the episode did not really just like immediately let Harrison, he had to prove to the others that, and yeah, even before he said it, I was sitting there thinking like, it is not easy for Harrison Wells to admit when he's wrong, which is, I know do I take every chance to say that as well? Maybe I do. It is extremely important for us to be able to admit when we've done something wrong. We should be wary of trusting people who refuse to admit when they're wrong. I think it's pretty clear that Donald Trump and Hegseth have already made tremendous mistakes in Iran, and they're trying to frame that as being too successful because they accidentally took out some of the people that they were hoping would run the country. That's not success. That's not what that means. Is this what Trump meant by saying that we would get tired of winning? Anyway, the I think the yeah, I also really love, so we have the scene of Barry explaining the frequency thing, and I cannot get enough of how this show takes these real life scientific concepts and then pushes them into the comic book exaggeration, and just because it's so like, I think every single one of them, every fantastical science thing on the show so far has had some basis in reality, and yeah, it's I think that might cover the. I really like the so they canvass the place, and Wells is like, I really wish there weren't any cops here in my home, and Barry reassembles the glass and then notes there's no point of impact here, and thus it has to be frequency. I'd like to watch that movie again. I just don't have access to it right now. I honestly might even do a video on it at some point. Used to watch it with great frequency. I'm sorry, even for me that was bad. Anyway, I think that might bring us to the there's definitely at least one more thing I really wanted to say about this part. The yeah, the thing about like, took them a while to even get there because they've never been there. They got lost on the way. They've never been there before because he likes to keep his private life a private life. And let's see. Yeah, and we get the thing about, as soon as we got the flashback, like we immediately know that's got to be the person behind this, and just immediately he is just the absolute worst. you know, I am not going to pass judgment for speaking Latin, a dead language, because I like the Latin that I know, and if I knew enough, I might speak Latin with my father, who knows enough to speak it, I'm pretty sure. But the way he talks to Cisco, that was a great way to angle that, because like immediately, even, like I feel like Cisco, even if you may have found him a little annoying the very first time or times we met him, like by this point, I feel like the audience, like unless you're just never going to come around on him, you like him by now. And Hartley specifically targets Cisco's "might I remind you" on point t-shirt game. Keep calm and Han shot first. There is literally nothing wrong with that t-shirt. And I think that does... I think I'll go ahead and cover there's... we also have the flashback of, Cisco and Dr. Snow meeting, and there's a, "You're so nice." He's not. Or no, she's nice. You're not. And, she's like, "Just ignore Hartley. That's what we all do." And, she's talking about like, oh, she and Ronnie are off for the day because it's their 1-year anniversary and he's going to take her out of the city. And it's just so sweet. And I really, 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 really hope it works out between them somehow, some way. And let's see, right. And as I'm sure most other people watching, I did immediately clock the last name. So yeah, this is the man who the elder Rathaways said, "We have no son" about. And it was not that they were referring to, their offspring was assigned male at birth and later transitioned into a woman or non-binary or something. No, it's I was off. I think I guessed that he maybe needed money from them or something, but no, it's because he came out. And just... I think I might, after I've recorded this video, go back and watch again Mick burning their painting, because now I feel even better about that finger painting being torched. Now I just wish that they were there to see it be burned, because if there's one thing you don't do as a parent, it's abandon your kids, especially for something like... gayness does not have a negative impact on literally anyone. The reaction to it can, the homophobic reaction, absolutely. And ultimately, it did not inform his character very much. We pretty much just have that one line about, I've been, it's been a dream of mine for some time now to be scooped up by a man wearing leather, so thank you, which... it's one of those things. It's not for me to judge. I have come across leftists who are gay, or just other, members of the LGBTQ plus community in general. Some who love jokes like that, some who are not so fond of them. And I mean, at least it was the gay character making that joke. It's one of those things where, if it was a cishet saying that about an LGBT plus person, that, to an insult or imply something, that's... yeah. I think that might... oh, and I'm sure some conservatives were very upset at something like that being in something rated TV PG, when it's like, I mean, you don't have to read anything into that. Like, just... yeah. I mean, literally all he described was, the clothes and the gender of the person, like, there does not have to be anything more there than, yeah. Anyway, and I have said it before, but it bears repeating, things like this can maybe help, young people realize that they are, members of the LGBT plus community. And yeah, the fact that, yes, this is a villain who's gay. He's not the first gay character on the show. Singh is as well. And I feel like the worst thing you could say about Singh is that he can be a little bit of a hard ass, which, like, he's a police captain, like, there is some expectation that he is. It is not like, oh, he is a hard ass because he's gay. And yeah, there's not something inherently wrong with a member of a minority group being, portraying a villain character, an antagonist, or something like that. Just the important thing is that it does not come across as if they're saying, oh, people like this are evil, which used to be the way, but then, yeah. Let's see. I think that does bring us to the I felt so bad for Iris that first day. She comes in and yeah. I mean, at least Mason did say, no, I'm calling you new because I've never seen you here before, But yeah, the thing about, no one wants to be the mama bear to the cub, and Mason says he's not a nanny, and just, yeah. And I think that might bring us to the yeah. So I mean, it's Cisco approved, not invented by him, but Pied Piper. Pied Piper attacks, the building, and it turns out to be a trap. Very, very clever. What did he call it later? A discovered attack. And yeah, there were a bunch of stories around this time of, villains purposefully getting captured. So yeah. And let's see. I think, yeah, I like that Flash had to kind of bug him for a little while so he could get to the gloves, because, at first yeah. And yeah, yeah, frequency, high enough frequency. I believe it is accurate that would also be able to push something back if it's not at the frequency where it would shatter it. Yeah. The let's see. Certainly things that can push you back do tend to make noise. And yeah, I feel like I read somewhere that something that, yeah, I've made my point and I'm moving on. But yeah, he starts grabbing stuff and throwing it at, Pied Piper. He says, oh, stop that. That's a tiny bit annoying. And, grabs the gloves, and yeah, Cisco realizing it's a trap. And yeah, it was genuinely very, very nicely done that Hartley, tells Barry he is going to betray you about Wells, and, you don't know his secret, do you? That was also, I like when Joe, and later Barry is like, oh, I think I see what this is, and says, you're not being replaced by Harrison Wells, And yeah, the right, it was a positive reference to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I guess this was before people started considering him incredibly obnoxious for all the actually, and the I think that does bring us to, but yeah, and the yeah, that's a pretty good apology, but it wasn't for my sake, was it? Hi, Flash. That was quite good, yeah. and genuinely, yeah, he's captured, and then he makes his way out through something that's painful for him to, you know, yeah. I want to watch Con Air again because that really reminded me of that. Very, very cool. I think that is when let's see. I really appreciated when Barry pointed out to Dr. Wells, everybody else abandoned you except Kate and Cisco. You owe them more than an apology. And but yeah, Joe saying, well, I guess maybe you don't know Dr. Wells as much as you thought you did. But let's see, yeah, and by the end of the episode, he is still, he had Eddie check, and yeah, it is like I can absolutely imagine, Harrison was very careful that it is impossible for anybody else to open. Well, let's see, did we see a secret compartment in his house? We know he has at least one at the lab. Didn't we see a second? Yeah, it's anyway. I'm sure they cannot be opened by anyone else than Wells. And yeah, it is this thing of like Joe wants to protect Barry, which is a very, he's not the birth father, but he is a surrogate father. And or wait, if father surrogate, I can never remember. Is surrogate father technically? No, that's surrogate mother. Whatever. Anyway, the that's one thing, and I think he is probably also thinking, I mean, the only person that could be Reverse Flash is Harrison Wells. He just needs evidence. Like, he's not going to go to Barry and say, make that accusation without anything to substantiate it with, because really, like, all he has is the fact that Wells was the person that he talked to about this whole thing, and then suddenly Reverse Flash is threatening Iris to Joe, so it's like, I feel like there's a connection there. Anyway, that does bring us to the, yeah, what was the other thing? Yeah, so yeah, he's making his escape, and the let's see, yeah, the explosion, like, holy crap. And Hartley's little smirk when he realizes, he didn't even mean to. He had no idea that would hurt Cisco, but he's pretty happy about it. And he knocks out Kate, and just like, this guy, Flash cannot stop him fast enough. And I also like when he made a pun, Wells will betray you in a flash. And I think that is when we get to the yeah, so he attacks the that place with the, I forget what, no wait, Dam, that's it. Dam is a good place for him to, because that's extremely dangerous and he's throwing around cars like they're, discarded candy wrappers. And if there's just one person who's watching this video right now and they thought that I meant hip-hop artists who make rap songs about candy, we think alike. Wasn't what I meant, but as soon as it came out of my mouth, that's where my mind went. Anyway, the yeah, and I think Cisco realizes, oh no, he got the information on Barry, so he knows the frequency. Just, yeah, really, really clever. And he tells Barry to get out of there, and Barry still doesn't. He does occasionally still not do as he is told by people that obviously do know. Yeah, it is this thing of like, when he knows that he can save people, do good, he really struggles with the three scientists telling him his limitations and such. Now, I believe that brings us to the... There's at least one more thing right around there. Let's see. It is the... Yeah, and he hardly comes close to defeating Barry. And yeah, very clever with the car radios. That's yeah, and the way that he Hartley gets Flash to grab his yeah the gloves, and that was how they were trigger the trigger mechanism for the device, the frequency thing. Very, very clever. And I really appreciated when so yeah, Harrison goes on TV and apologizes, and he does not answer Mason's question, and he's obviously thinking, oh, Iris, that's going to be softball, so he asks, and she's just like, well, since you did not answer my colleague's question, I'll ask it again, and she gets the answer and thanks him, and what was that, gumption? And yeah, that is really great, because that's such an important question. That's the kind of question that I wish was more frequently... Well, I guess they are still, at least some are asking Trump that. The ones who are not just like saying, why are you so awesome? How is it even possible for us mere mortals to be as amazing as you are? It is the kind of thing that I also wish that, Republican politicians in general were forced to adequately answer. I've been watching some coverage of the some of those hearings, and boy, are the Republicans frustrating and just evading. Like, it's one of those things like, why are you evading if you don't think you did anything wrong? And let's see. I think that might be right. And obviously, I'm not saying that Democrats never do it. I'm not making excuses for like establishment Democrats. I'm just saying, right now, a lot of the worst things being done in America, in the world, are being done by Republicans in office. I feel like there's at least one more thing that I really wanted to make sure to say. Hartley, you utter jerk. Telling Cisco, like, you're going to feel like such a fool when you let me out of here, because I know where Ronnie is and how to save him. And just... I am looking forward to more of despising Hartley, because it is really... I think he is probably the Flash villain on the show that I find the most just utterly unbearable so far. So good. The yes, the real post-credit scene. Well, it doesn't need to work much longer. It was only ever meant to be a temporary solution. The real end game is on its way, and it's like, I can hardly... I mean, I feel like he's probably using all the knowledge they're gaining on Barry, because, like, obviously the powers are, well, yeah, I guess essentially the same. It's just that they're unstable for Wells. Yeah, I think that might cover everything. Yeah. I did really appreciate the tension when Hartley, the frequency attack on Barry close to the end, before the car radios save the day. The the utter, Hartley is explaining how, in what this is equivalent to in chess, and Barry is in utter agony, which I think the fact that this is like literally, he talks about like, oh, this is like destroying your organs. I think that's 25% of the reason that Barry is in such intense pain. And the other 75 are that he has watched the X-Men movies and he is so fed up with all these freaking chess metaphors